Tina in West Midlands.
Good morning, Nick Clegg. Thank you for taking my call. This country prides itself on freedom for speech, but what happened to Lee Rigby last week, I believe, was freedom of slaughter. What I want to ask is, why is it not possible to stop hate preachers like Anjem Choudary?
Well, funny enough, I was talking to on the two days after the horrific attack in Woolwich. I was talking to a number of leaders of different Muslim communities, different mosques in an event, a sort of multi-faith event that I held in London, and I think this is really important. They themselves were furious that Anjem Choudary was being given so much publicity. Now, I don't actually think it is for governments to start pointing a long finger and telling broadcasters, thou shalt invite that person, thou shalt not invite that person on their programme, because then, quite rightly, as you say, Tina, that would destroy the kind of democracy and freedom of expression that we all treasure. But what I said to them was, listen, you guys should get, as I think they have done, you should get in touch with the producers of these programmes and say, Anjem Choudary and people like him do not represent the vast, overwhelming majority of law-abiding, peace-loving Muslims in this country and elsewhere in the world. And I think the more we can actually have, if you like, I want more freedom of speech, in the sense that I want more moderate Muslim leaders to speak up, as they did in unison last week, saying people like that do not represent our faith.
But they'll always get drowned out by one hothead, potentially, won't they, Deputy Prime Minister?
I think actually what we saw last week was a very unambiguous and universal condemnation by a whole range of different Muslim leaders of the Muslim communities in Britain, who otherwise might disagree on various aspects. It was one of the first times I can remember it was totally universal and completely unambiguous. And I think that's really important, because the signal has got to go out, particularly to young Muslim men. It tends to be young men, young Muslim men who might be susceptible to some of these vile, perverted ideologies. The signal's got to come out from people in their own community that is not an acceptable or recognised understanding of their faith, of Islam. It's a total perversion and corruption of it.
So should broadcasters not give these people airtime?
Look, I think
yes or no, is it not?
It isn't. No, I'll tell you what. It is not for politicians to tell broadcasters who they can invite on their programme.
You could urge.
I could certainly.
What would you do if you ran LBC or Sky News? Would you use Anjem Choudary?
I think Anjem Choudary clearly doesn't represent the vast majority of Muslims in this country. He's completely unrepresented.
If you were running LBC or Sky News, would you use him?
I'm simply not going to take up your invitation to start saying who I think should and shouldn't be invited on programmes.
Really?
But I do. Yes, of course not. Of course not. Do you really want to live in a society
I've been
where
intrigued by your view.
Well, I'll tell you what.
I've just put you in a different job. You're no longer Deputy Prime Minister. You've been promoted to running LBC.
Whatever job I have, and I'm old-fashioned liberal who actually believes that people.
What is a liberal?
Well, I'll tell you. In this important respect, a liberal means this, is that I think abhorrent ideologies are best defeated when they are argued against, when they're demolished, and when they're showed up to be as perverted and corrupt as they are. If you were to say to someone like Anjem Choudary, whose views I suspect everyone listening to this programme, everybody abhors. If you were to say, right, the government is going to go after this guy, we're going to stop him appearing on British television shows, guess what would happen in my view? He'd become a hero. He'd become a hero in his own community. Far from actually discrediting his appalling ideology, you'd actually turn him into a figurehead. Is that smart? I don't think it's smart. I'm a liberal who passionately believes that moderation, non-violence, open argument is the way to secure our safety, and that if you try and brush people, if you like, under the carpet, what you actually often end up doing is turning them into more powerful, more extremist figures in the communities in which they operate.